Hey everyone, welcome back to this channel of crafting, crochet and knitting. My name is Nikki and welcome to my little yarniverse. So hello, welcome if you're new, welcome back if you're a returning viewer. I am seriously out of practice at recording. The last few videos that I made, I did record a few sort of in quick succession because I knew that things were getting quite busy. So I haven't recorded a video in so long. Things are still busy, which is why it's been about a month since my last video, and also why I don't have that much to show you. I do have a few video ideas lined up, but it is just proving pretty much impossible to sit down and record. So there will be videos coming up, but I just don't know when. And this is the point where I usually apologise for that, but at the same time I'm not going to apologise for life being messy, because life is messy and I don't want to put out this feeling on my channel like you have to apologise for life being messy, because that's just not how it is. So yeah, I have things that I want to talk about in videos, and they will appear when they appear. But today's video, hopefully you will enjoy, because even though I haven't got a lot to show you, it is something that you guys help me decide what to make, and that's because oh, I don't even know how long ago it would have been now, but a bit ago I did ask you which of my sock yarns I should use next, and I got a few different answers, and I am going to make a few different socks. That is my plan, because I'm enjoying having a smaller project to make. I've got quite a few big projects at the moment that are not finished, and I do need to finish, but it's proving pretty impossible to finish them. So I'm enjoying having a small project. I'm enjoying having a project that other people have helped contribute towards by choosing yarn and stuff, and also just the process of working on something again is a nice feeling. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking and actually show you what it is that I am making. I am using the Opal Sport. Hang on, I've got the ticket in here somewhere. So Opal Sharp Patter 11. Don't think that means anything to anybody. It's an Opal yarn. It's a German company, hence the Sharp Patter. And it is their Colour Sport. So yes, lots of German, which ordinarily I'm sure I could translate, but on the fly in a video, that's not going to happen. So I quite like this yarn. It feels nice to work with. It is, I think, the typical 75% wool, 25% nylon or polyamide, and it is quite flamboyant for me. So I bought this yarn because I really love just purples and blues. It came and it was a little bit more pinky magenta purple than I think I was expecting, and I don't really have anything like this in my wardrobe, but it's just a colour I enjoy. It brings me joy. So these will just be some sort of fun socks that I wear around the house, I think. So I've wound them up into 2 cakes. So this is how I make all my socks. If I have 100 gram balls, I wind them up into 2 cakes of 50 grams. I've got quite a few 50 gram balls where I haven't got a 50 gram for each sock. I've just got a 50 gram of the colour, and then I've got a different colour I want to weave into that, and so I'm going to have to wind those up into 25 gram balls. And this is how I make sure that I've got enough yarn for each sock. I like to do 2 at a time. I don't use cable needles for my knitting, so I don't do like 2 at a time like on a cable. I just knit them together, so that if I have any variations in my gauge, then those variations are sort of ironed out, and I don't end up with like one really huge sock because I was knitting loosely, and one really small sock because I was stressed and knitting tightly. So yeah, I did give a little brief glimpse of the socks there. I used double pointed needles, and here is how far I've gotten at the moment. So yes, I have just been I've been travelling a lot, and I can't knit in the car because I drive, and I think the authorities in the UK frown on that. So I haven't been able to travel knit. I haven't been able to knit like at work because like obviously I'm working. I don't do this for a full-time job. I have a full-time job in software. So this has just been something I've picked up whenever I've actually been home and I've had my project at hand. And I found it really relaxing. Usually when I do knitting projects, I do a 2x2 rib cuff and then I just do stockinette. So this is the second sock where I've not done that. I did one where I think it still has a 2x2 rib cuff, but then I switched to a moss stitch. So those are my amber socks. If I remember, I'll get a photo and I'll insert it, and if not, I've just pointed at a random space behind me for no reason. But that's fine. But I started the 2x2 rib on these, and just where the ball has lined up and sort of given me an okay starting point, wasn't the most ideal for a 2x2 rib, and it didn't look very good at all. I hated it, and so I switched out and I moved to a 1x1 rib instead. And I think this is better because I think the colour kind of comes through a bit more. It's not being masked by the pattern, but it is strange because actually one side of my knitting looks nicer than the other. Like, I think that side looks nicer. Maybe it's hard to tell on camera. I think that my yarn just, I don't know if it bends differently on one side of the work compared to the other. And it just doesn't look as smooth, whereas when I fold over the cuff I find that the other side looks smoother to me. Maybe that is just me, I don't know. But I've already started the heel now, so there's not an awful lot I can do about that. Maybe it's just a quirk of the knitting that I should be blocking my socks to try and work that out, but overall I don't think it looks too bad when I fold down the cuff. And so, because basically what I decided when I started doing this 1x1 rib, it didn't feel like it made sense to me to stop. And I hate working rib. I absolutely hate it. And so the fact that I have gone through this project and I've been working 1x1 rib is so strange to me, but it's just bizarre that as I was working the yarn I found it really therapeutic, and I think it was just what I needed right now. Like I say, things have been busy, things have not been good, and I haven't wanted to pick up work, and so something about doing rib which has slowed me down, even though it would normally frustrate me because it slowed me down, it's actually making me work my knitting in a way that calms me. And I needed that. So I'm really liking working on these socks. I don't mind that this is not the quickest pair of socks I've ever made, even though I've got millions of sock yarns upstairs that need to be turned into socks at some point too. I'm not thinking about that right now. And so I got to this point here and I switched out from 1x1 rib into a heel flap stitch that I use quite often. So on one side you would do a slip stitch and then a knit, slip knit all the way, and then on the other side you would purl all the way across, and that sort of makes instead of it being reversible, so the 1x1 rib is reversible, it gives you this texture on this side which kind of just strengthens the heel, I've been told. I did wonder whether 1x1 rib would be strong enough, whether I would need to swap out, but actually I think they have different textures. So even though the 1x1 rib is still quite thick, so stockinette not thick at all, 1x1 rib quite thick, it feels very spongy, whereas the heel feels sturdy, and I think that's probably why it was a good thing that I did swap out and just kept going with heel flap that I knew. But it still kind of fits in, it carries this rib on, and as I was doing this I actually realised I had to rip back the first couple of rows of the heel flap because I have been slip stitching wrong my whole knitting life. I realised that up against the 1x1 rib that my slip stitches were twisting the yarn, and it doesn't look as bad on a sock where I've done stockinette because it's kind of obvious that you've changed the texture, but when you were lining it up against the 1x1 rib like this, it was like, yeah, that looks wrong. So yes, I've gone and tried to force myself to slip stitch in a way that is actually going to carry the V shapes without twisting it. So I have done up to this point on both socks. I actually offset my start point. So usually with socks I'm quite meticulous and I count how many rows that I'm doing on each sock, and even if I've got a self-striping yarn that doesn't quite line up, I just keep going with, I have knit this many rows, that's all I need to do. But because I was pretty much in the right place, when I got to the heel flap, I reset slightly. So the yarn had got to a point where I had more of one colour coming up in thread than I did on the other sock. And so if I'd have just gone straight into the heel flap, then it would have had a different number of stitches on this like first row that would have been noticeable in the heel flap, and maybe it wouldn't have been noticeable overall, but I just kind of convinced myself, hang on a minute, why does that even matter? Like, why can't I do an extra 10 stitches or something, or an extra 15 stitches on one sock and reset the yarn into a place where I can start the heel flap at a solid colour? Why can't I do that? It wasn't going to make an overall difference to the whole sock, so I did it. And I'm glad I did, because then it was so much easier to kind of count my heel flap rows and work out that I have in fact done the same number of rows on my heel flap, which previously I meticulously meticulously monitor, whereas this time I was like, oh, but I'm going to be guessing at it. And then I realised that because I took the time to just reset my starting point, I can count it because it's really visible where the colour changes are. I can be like, right, I've got 10 purple and I've got 4 sort of off-white, yellowy, pale yellowy colours, and then I've got 2 of the grey blue. So I could just literally go, count it, sorted. So yeah, kind of glad that I did that. So if you've got self-striping yarns, it could even be worth doing that. It shouldn't, if you start in vaguely the right place at your cuff, it shouldn't matter if you have to just stitch like an extra 15 stitches or so. Like, I think as long as you're only doing a part row and not a full row, even a full row probably wouldn't be that obvious, because I didn't count everything up to here either. I just assumed it was vaguely in the right place. So yeah, like it's not going to make that much difference. And I think I've also found that freedom in making socks, that sort of comfort that I've made of several pairs now, I know what I'm doing, that freedom has also made this project a very easy and therapeutic project to do. So that is where we're at. I'm just about to turn the heel and then pick up stitches for the gusset, and continue on towards the foot. The gusset is the bit that I hate the most because it involves more stitches on my needles and like paying more attention to where I'm decreasing, but once I'm past that, the foot becomes easy knitting again, which means that this becomes a project that I can just sit in a cafe with, or I can just sit in front of the telly with, which again adds to that, finding this a very therapeutic knit to make. So I am going to shut up about the socks for a moment, because I've managed to actually talk about that for so long, and I think this is probably one of the most relaxed videos that I've put together in a little while, simply because I'm just knitting again. I'm not rushing to fulfill a project, I'm not rushing to make content, so I hope that slower pace is okay with you guys. Like I say, I do have some other video ideas. I think that having made this one first has put me in a good stead to make a few more and have that content available, so looking forward to those. Don't know what size they'll be, might be bigger, smaller, but we will see. I'm just glad that I was able to share some knitting with you again, and I'm enjoying making socks. So if this wasn't the colour that you wanted me to pick, don't worry, I'm going to look back over the comments from that video and I'm going to pick some of the other colours that were mentioned as the next ones that I pick up. And I think I'm just going to do some sock knitting for a little while, like I say, smaller projects, slow down a bit, and just make what I'm going to make. And I still got the solar system blanket to actually block and finish. I've still got the autumn blanket as well. That blocking is going to take a long time, because even though I now have some foam mats to block with, I don't actually have any blocking pins, so I've got no way to block them. So So yeah, I need to do that. I think I've only blocked like 10 of the triangles, 10 of the diamonds right now. And I'm just sat there wondering that if they dry, are they going to start curling up again? So yeah, I don't want to. I've got them pressed between books at the moment to stop them from curling back up, and at some point I'm going to have to admit defeat, because I'm going to get to a point where I can't keep pressing, these leaves, diamond shaped motifs between books to try and keep them in shape. At some point I'm going to have to start trying to join them and forcing them to hold their shape. So I'm not looking forward to that. It takes so much space up on my desk, and that's space I just don't have right now. The camera is a lot more zoomed in at the moment because I have got a sofa stood on its arm next to me, as well as just boxes and wood and stuff over here. So my recording space has been disrupted. It is all adding to the chaos, and exactly why I want to slow down my knitting. So enough of that for now. I will get this video into edit, and I'll see you in another one. Do leave me a comment, let me know what you've been working on over the last month or so, because I have been absent. I'd love to know what you've been making, and yeah, see you in the next video. Bye everyone.